Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jeanna if you're new here, and I am a musical theater performer turned health coach. I specialize in self-love and perfectionism. This is a different video today. It's part 2 of a series. I have the first video all about my birth plan, and if you notice from the title, this is going to be my birth story. It's taken me a while to kind of work through my emotions and have a little bit of healing behind my birth story because obviously it didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. So this is going to be an emotional video. Hopefully I won't cry. But it was definitely very different from what we wanted and what we thought was going to occur. And with that, you have to go with the flow. Birth is birth, and it will be whatever it will be. And we are very grateful for our experience and what we went through. So no matter what, it was an amazing experience. So if you are interested in more pregnancy and lifestyle videos like this about my life and about mom life, I do have a 3-month-old right now who's sleeping, who might wake up and interrupt this video, but whatever. If you like more of these videos, make sure to subscribe and like. I'm new to YouTube, so I would like for your support, and let's get started. But I have my coffee and I am ready to have a heart-to-heart all about my birth story. So, like I said, everyone's birth story is so different, and whatever happens in your birth is beautiful and is meant to be, and nothing is wrong, nothing is right. Birth is so unpredictable, and you just have to open up, let go, and accept the journey. And that's definitely what we did. And I felt like my hypnobirthing training, which I talk about a little bit in my birth plan, helped me kind of get through that. They talk a lot about positive birth stories and really breathing through, you were meant to do this, your body knows what to do, all of those types of mantras really helped me get through this time. It was a 56-hour birth or labor, and I never expected it to be that long. We didn't pack bags for it to be that long, so we had no idea what was to come. So the whole time I was pretty calm. I was pretty go with the flow, and okay, this is what's next, this is what we have to do, and just kind of threw up my hands. So having that sort of attitude going into it, as opposed to coming from like a fear-based mindset, is crucial, because even if your birth is 4 hours or 56 like mine, if you have that mentality, it'll really help you get through it no matter what. Even if it is something that you didn't want to happen, it kind of helps you get through that a little bit easier. Okay, so my husband works at sea, so he had not been home since December 26th of 2020. So I hadn't seen him for months. About 3/4 of the pregnancy, I would say, I did not see him. So he arrived on July 3rd, so the day before Independence Day, and so excited to see him, and we thought we had, a couple weeks. Our due date wasn't until July 24th. So we had a bit of time. I was really looking forward to those 2 weeks of spending a lot of time with him and just growing and bonding again and really having some time. So I was still working at Lululemon. I work at the Richmond store, and I went into work that week. So I went in on Tuesday, and I went to the bathroom, as you do, and I thought that I had lost my mucus plug. So I texted my doula, and I talk about a doula in my birth plan, so make sure to watch that video as well. I texted my doula, and she said, looks a little bit interesting. I don't know if it's your mucus plug. It might be. Just let me know how things progress. Things were fine. I was feeling fine. Nothing crazy there. So I continued to work, and was just really in the back of my mind, just a little bit nervous that I did lose my mucus plug. And if you don't know what a mucus plug is, it's basically a mucousy plug that is at the bottom of your womb that prevents like bacteria and any sort of germs into your womb to get to your baby. So when you lose your mucus plug, it's usually because your cervix is starting to efface or it's starting to dilate. And in that moment, I was like, oh gosh, here we go. But nobody seemed to be too worried about it. That was my phone, it just dropped on the floor. But I had a birthing center appointment, and I talk about birthing centers in my last video in birth plans. Make sure to watch that about birthing centers. Anyway, so I knew that I had an appointment the next day. So we went in, chatted with the midwives and said, hey, you know, we think that I lost, not we, our mucus, my mucus plug, I don't know why I keep saying my mucus plug. And she said, yep, you actually did lose your mucus plug. And my mom had told me that she lost her mucus plug and was in labor, I think like a couple days later. Anyway, but it's different for everyone, obviously. But the midwife said, you have, you know, on average, most people go another 2 weeks, sometimes 3 if they're a first-time mom. So I'm thinking, great, this is great. We have a couple of weeks, that's awesome. And we just relaxed a little bit more. I did worry a little bit, so we started to pack, you know, get into that nesting mode and get into that, you know, mom mode towards the end. So I started to pack some bags. We started to get some things for the birthing center, and you don't really need much for the birthing center, so we really did not have a lot of things packed. We were hoping to be there maybe like 10 hours, 12 hours, give or take. So not much in that bag. Yeah, so that night, it was a Wednesday, we went to the pool. We live in an apartment complex and we have a pool, and I had not been at all the whole summer. It was July, what day was that? It's the 7th, wow. It was the 7th of July. And I wanted to go to the pool. So we went to the pool and it was beautiful. Oh, I enjoyed the water so much. We came home and went to bed as normal. My husband was actually taking a course online, and it was in UK time, so he had to be awake and ready to go in his course at 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is where we live. So we were going to bed quite early. So we went to bed, I think at like 9 p.m., 9:30, something like that. Anyway, we went to bed and I woke up around 10 p.m. and went to the bathroom, and as soon as I got out of the bed, I felt a gush rush out of me, and I ran into the bathroom and just liquid was all over the floor, and it had leaked all the way to the bathroom as I ran to the bathroom. And in that moment I figured, okay, this is my water. It just broke, because this does not feel like anything else. Because sometimes they say waters, they'll like gradually leak over time. No, mine was not like that. It just gushed out of me. And I didn't think it was going to be like that, but wow, it was. Anyway, so we're in the bathroom and we decide to wait to call the birthing center, because usually when your water breaks and you don't start contractions, you have a little bit of time. So we weren't really in too much of a rush there. We wanted to sleep the night. They say sleep as much as possible if you're having like contractions until they get really intense and they're 4 minutes apart consistently, then come in. So we waited until 9 a.m. to call them. We also were in contact with our doula around like 5 a.m. My husband was already up and awake by 3. And throughout the night, I tried to go back to sleep. I was in and out of a daze. I was timing my contractions already. I think they were about 10 to 7, maybe 6 minutes apart. So definitely not intense enough to go into the birthing center. So we were going to wait anyway. Anyway, my husband was taking his course. He came in and out of the bedroom to check on me, make sure I was okay. They were intense, but they felt a little bit like light period cramps, nothing that I can't handle. So it wasn't too bad. Anyway, we called the birthing center when they opened around 9 o'clock, and they said make sure to get into some positions, and if your doula's coming over, keep monitoring your contractions and let us know if they get to 4 minutes and consistently for an hour, you know, with the intensity being high. So we continue to monitor them. I think our doula came over around mid-morning. My mom was coming over. We had messaged her. She brought us some breakfast. So I ate, I think, a Panera egg sandwich and had a ton of water. And she brought over some hydrating beverages for us to take to the birthing center as well, because that's what they recommend, things with electrolytes. So she was there, my doula arrived, and we started to put myself into positions, and she started to kind of maneuver me on a ball and laid me down in the bed and kind of twisted my body just to bring him, my baby, I didn't know it was a him at the time, bring my baby down further, which I really loved. It was a really intimate experience for her to come into our apartment and just like be really chill with us and like help bring him down and put me in all these positions. It just felt really relaxing. The problem is that it wasn't progressing as much as we wanted it to, as quickly as we wanted it to. So we called our birthing center back, and my midwife recommended starting to pump. So I started to pump, which was weird because it was the first time I'd ever used my pump, obviously. And it was so weird because you just know your body forever and ever, and all of a sudden you manipulate your boobs and things come out of them. It was the craziest thing. I was like, wow, things are actually happening. Like things are actually moving and coming out of me. It just felt like I was discovering my body all over again. After that, it did intensify. So my contractions started getting more intense, more painful, and they started to be closer together. And we were really excited about that. So I was bouncing on the ball and we were chatting, and it had gone a while since my water had broken. So we were talking to the midwife, and she informed us that if you go 18 hours without your contractions progressing, it ups the likelihood of getting an infection. So, you know, your water's broken, your amniotic fluid is gone, and your mucus plug is gone. So, you know, tons of germs and bacteria can get into your cervix and get into your uterus and affect the baby and your health and their health, obviously. So they told us if I am not progressed and I am not feeling my contractions the way that I should by about 4 or 5 p.m., I need to come in so that they can help me progress my labor. And unfortunately, that's what we had to do. It was not progressing, but I had full faith that when I got there, that they would intensify, they would get better, they would help me progress it. So I had no worries. We grabbed our little bags and all of our beverages and snacks and stuff that we had packed just that week. And just remember, my husband had only been in the country for 4 days. Let's see, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, so like 5 days, 5.5 days, or 4.5 days. So whirlwind, right? I'm just like getting to know him again. And I'm going into labor. and this is what it is. And I was actually really excited, but a little bit nervous, like, oh gosh, like what's going on and what's normal, because obviously every birth is so different, and you just gotta go with the flow. I was doing a lot of breathing throughout my contractions. They did feel intense, but now looking back, an intensity of probably maybe a 5, I would say. Painful, but not to the point where it was excruciating, but I was breathing through it, so I felt good. Anyway, so we ended up going into the birthing center. We had all of our stuff. We had the car seat, obviously, and our doula was following us behind us. So I have the worst memory in the world. So I grabbed this book from behind me. It's called Growing You. And I talked about this journal in my second trimester recap. So make sure to click that video if you haven't watched it. And there's a section where you can write your birth story. I will make sure to link this down below. I just got it off Amazon. It's so beautiful though. It's really well made. It's a hardback, and just all the pages are so simple, and they ask you questions like every month, and you get to answer them. It was just really nice to reflect. So that's just a little paused moment from the birth story, just to let you know about this book. And I'm just reading through everything to make sure I don't forget any details. But yeah, so we got to the birthing center, and we were in what was called the mermaid room, and it had a huge tub. It was very dark and like teal and blues and all sorts of colors, and it had a fireplace in the wall, like a gas one. Yeah, a gas fireplace. And it was just a very soothing, beautiful room. And with birthing centers, I talk about it a little bit in my first video, but they have like a queen size bed. They don't have a medical bed. You know, at the hospital, you just have a single bed. I loved that there was a double bed, and my husband could cuddle up with me in there with our baby, and just a lot more comfortable. So they had music playing, and they were diffusing lavender, and it was just so wonderful. I loved it. I was so happy I went with a birthing center in my birth plan. So anyway, we got to the birthing center, and they said, okay, we're gonna try a couple of things. So they gave me a castor oil smoothie, which sounds so gross, but they put a bunch of flavors in it. So like chocolate, peanut butter. So to be honest, like after not eating for a while, it actually tasted pretty good. I was okay with it. So I guzzled that down quickly. They said you need to drink it quickly. And castor oil is apparently supposed to help your body's contractions, and it's supposed to, I don't know how it works, hashtag science, but anyway, it's supposed to do something. And so they gave that to me, and it was an experience. It was very cold. It was a lot to drink in one go, and we were hoping that it would do something for my labor. They also had these little herbal shots. They tasted like grass. I needed to drink one every 15 minutes. I think there was about 4. So I drank those. Really hard to have those, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. I was staying so positive. Everybody was like, wow, you are rocking this. And my contractions continued to be the same as what they were at home. A little bit more intense, so I bounced on a ball. I got in the bed, got on all 4s, and rocked back and forth. I laid on my side. My husband was there with me. My doula was putting me in different positions. I went on the toilet. Like they said that that's a really great place to labor. When I got to the toilet, they were pretty intense, to the point where like I couldn't really sit properly, or I just felt really, really uncomfortable, just in general, uncomfortable. So I'm thinking, yeah, this is labor, this is getting worse, and I'm hoping that I'm dilating. So when we first got there, my midwife checked me, and I was about like 3 or 4 centimeters, so not too dilated. And then I started to have my contractions and everything like that. So I felt like we were progressing. Someone woke up from their nap. Didn't you? Didn't you? What's up, Ollie? Anyway, this is my birth story, all about this little nugget right here. And we're so glad that he made an appearance so that you guys could see him. So we're talking about you and your story and how you came out of me. He's still very sleepy. You sleepy, baby? Yeah. All right, well, we're going to let him play, and hopefully he won't make too much noise. And hopefully he will play when he's not in a bad mood. If not, I'll have to feed him on camera, if that's all right with you. All right, buddy, come on. All right, continuing. So we're at the birthing center, and I vomit everything that I just drank. So my castor oil smoothie, my wheatgrass shots, all into a barf bag, and surprisingly, my husband catches all of it. He is incredible. Special skills, I will say. So that was gone, out of my system. I don't know why I threw it up. I think I was really hot. It was like in and out, hot, cold. I couldn't figure out what my body was doing. And again, it's birth. Really, your body can react in many different ways. And I know that throwing up is pretty common. So I also was very aware of the noises and the sounds in the room, and I thought that there was a track playing with all this water, and I was like, oh, this is a beautiful track. It's like very soothing with this like water playing. And my husband informed me that no, there's like a tropical storm going on outside. I'm like, great, amazing. I totally thought that that was in the track, but anyway. So that was happening, and my husband and my doula were ordering food because it was around dinner time and late. So we had been there for about five hours. Yeah, we'd been there for about 5, almost 6 hours now. So they thought that, you know, I was progressing. He's looking at me. Hey, buddy, you're so cute. They thought that I was progressing really well because my contractions were really intense. I was in pain, so they started filling up the bathtub. They also tried to stick an IV in me to get more hydration, and it just wasn't happening. If you know me at all or know anything about my medical history, which you shouldn't, but anyway, for your information, I have rolling veins. So when people try to stick needles in me to take blood or put an IV in, it's pretty much impossible. Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, it runs in my family, so it makes it really hard. I try to warn people before I go in, but you never know. Anyway, so the IV didn't go in. So she's filling up the bathtub, and I'm feeling really hopeful. I'm like, okay, we're almost there. We're almost there. Like, this hard work is going to pay off. It's going to pay off. And so she checks me. I lay back in the bed, and it was actually really painful when she checked me. I was still only at 3 or 4 centimeters. And after so many hours, I just felt so defeated. I felt like my body was not doing what it was supposed to do. It was not, I felt like I was failing, or my body was failing me. So, I mean, clearly it ended up great because he's here. But yeah, I felt like, you know, why am I having these intense contractions and nothing is happening? And I wasn't on any medication, so I was feeling everything pretty intensely. And I just didn't understand. My water had broken, so clearly I was in labor. Clearly I was ready. But to preface, I was only at 37 and a half weeks. So I didn't go all the way to 40, 41 weeks like they say first-time moms do. So that could have had a lot to do with it looking back. And that was kind of part of my healing process too, is, you know, my body probably just was not ready. Even though my water broke, I probably was not ready to birth him and to contract and dilate as much as I needed it to. But in the moment, of course, I felt like a failure and I felt so disappointed. And I just knew that we were not going to birth this baby at the birthing center. And that was like my dream and my hope. And we had invested all this time and all this money into it as well. And it was really sad. It was disappointing. So my midwife looked at me and she said, you know, this is what you need. You need to go to the hospital, get an epidural, and just rest. You've been going for 24 hours already, and you're getting closer and closer and closer to risks of an infection. So you're shaking. I mean, at this point, I was laboring and I was shaking so much. I was so exhausted. And I had barely eaten that day, if anything. So she said, this is the best thing you need to do right now, is give yourself some rest while you continue to labor. So we got in our car, and obviously when you transfer non-emergency from a birthing center, you can drive your own car. So we drove to the Henrico Women's Hospital, parked in the parking deck, and had to waddle me while I'm in labor to the front, which was actually really hard. That was probably the worst part, is we had to walk ourselves there from the parking deck, which is like a good 5-minute walk. And I had to stop a couple of times. I labored a couple times in the car too, and it was still pouring rain. So kudos to my husband for driving us during that tropical storm. And our doula was still with us the whole time. She was incredibly supportive. All right, so we got to the hospital. We are in our room, which was huge, by the way. It had a chair, a single bed on the side, and then also my bed in the center. And they got me dressed and everything, as hospitals do. And then I went straight into getting an epidural. Around this time, I was so in and out of consciousness and obviously contracting the whole time and so exhausted and so hungry that I really was not aware of everything that was happening. So I will explain to you kind of my perspective of what was happening, which is also in my birth story book. And if there are more details that you would want to know, great. If you want to comment below and ask, you can always do that, and I can respond based on my husband and my doula's experience. But to be honest, I was really in and out of consciousness. When I was getting the epidural, everybody was so nice. That hospital was incredible, and they have a special circumstance with the birthing center for transfers. So, and I think the birthing center just really loves how they do things there as a hospital, and they still try to keep a lot of the Eastern medicine there, like midwifery and more holistic methods. So I went in and had some midwives check on me instead of doctors, and some nurses, obviously. But we started off with an epidural right away so that I could get some rest. So I was just like hunched over onto the nurse in front of me while he put it in, which didn't hurt at all. I think because I was just so tired. I wasn't in pain very much. I wasn't upset. I was just so tired. So after the epidural, I slept for a little bit. I have no idea how long. Around that point, it was Thursday night. So it had been 24 hours. And I think it was about almost midnight by the time I got the epidural. And after that, they put me in a ton of positions. They had me sleep just to see if the baby would move down and if my labor would progress. They also started giving me Pitocin. So at this point, if you go back to my birth plan, I did not want to have any medication. And at this point, I was just like, okay, this is what it is. This is what it's going to be, because I'm in risk of an infection after having my water broken for so long. So I just had to let go, just surrender and accept that this was the way forward, just to make sure that the baby was coming out and that I was healthy and the baby was healthy. So they started to add Pitocin to my IV. They put me in a bunch of positions with one of those peanut balls. I was laying on the side with it in between my legs, or on the other side with it in between my legs. And these were supposed to help move the baby down. And I appreciated that they didn't go straight to, okay, well, it's been so long, so we're going to go straight into the C-section option, which I may have experienced at another hospital. So I was very appreciative of them. Anyway, so in and out of consciousness, after the epidural, I didn't feel any of these contractions. So I can see why people get them, because it was very effective, and I didn't even know that I was having them. I would look at the screen. He's looking at me. Hi, baby. Dean was looking at the screen, my husband, and it would like spike, and you would see when I was contracting, but I didn't feel it at all. Anyway, so that went on for hours, and they fed me like a popsicle, I think. I was in and out of sleep. They kept saying that the baby's heart rate was dropping, and usually when the contraction happens, it's supposed to be elevating, which is normal for a baby, and that shows that they're reacting to the contraction. It's like a big hug on them. But his heart rate was dropping when I was not contracting. I think that's what happened. Anyway, I'm trying to remember everything. So they stopped the Pitocin for a little bit and then added it back in small increments until they saw that he was okay, or the baby was okay. They said that they would cap my Pitocin at 20, which is like a level that they can't give me anymore. And I basically got to that. It wasn't progressing still, and my contractions weren't progressing still, so they had to bump me all the way up to 20. At this point, there was a lot of things happening. People were all around me, testing things, talking, letting me sleep. My husband and my doula were talking to me. They were also going out of the room, getting things. It was Friday at this point. So basically all day Friday, I was dealing with this kind of situation where I was just waiting for it to progress, and the Pitocin was helping me. And it was long. It was really long. Because if you remember, I lost my water Wednesday night, and it was already Friday morning. Yeah, so my husband and doula were in and out, getting food and stuff, and randomly my mom came in as I was like half asleep, and she actually wasn't even allowed to be in the room, but she somehow got through with her charm, and she dropped us off some clothes and things because we had not packed anything for a hospital stay. We had only thought that we were going to be at the birthing center for just a little bit, maybe half a day, and then be able to go back home. So we didn't have any like toiletries. We didn't have any change of clothes for a couple of days, especially for my husband. I was probably going to be in a gown most of the time. But yeah, we didn't have any of that stuff. He also like got some food for himself. Yeah, so she was in and out very quickly, didn't really say much. Yeah. My husband was also in contact with his family who lives in the UK. So he was in constant communication with what was going on, and everybody was actually getting really worried because it had been a couple of days already since I had gone into labor or my water broke. So everybody was quite on edge, including myself. But I was trying to stay calm, and I had to eventually just tell my husband, like, hey, turn off the phone. We can't deal with this right now. This is you and me in this. And it's actually making me more nervous. So I told him to stop communicating. I hear you, bud, with our family, because it just became too much. You know, people just expected, you to connect with them and communicate every little detail. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted it to be calm, anxious-free, and not take their fear and anxiety and put it on us in the situation. Okay, so at this point, my Pitocin was at 20. So they checked me and I was dilated to an 8. So it had worked, it had progressed. I think my contractions were like 2 minutes apart. So they went to go check me and like had to move a little bit of my cervix out of the way to become an 8. And I was completely effaced, which means my cervix had completely thinned out. So I was in a good place to start pushing, and I was so excited about this part because it means that, you know, I was about to meet my baby soon. So I started pushing, and they used a bar, so I like leaned forward. I also put my feet up against my husband and my doula, so on either side, also some nurses, and I pushed that way. I also did like a polar bear pose where I went, I turned around and put my face in the pillow and did it that way. I also used a blanket or a sheet and pulled that and had to tell my doula to stop because she was so strong. But yeah, so different methods of pushing, not the traditional just And hypnobirthing, when you take this class, they talk about not really pushing per se, but breathing down. And it's kind of similar to taking a poop. You don't want to push because then that obviously has, you know, complications where you can get hemorrhoids, you can, you know, start to get some nasty stuff in your colon. But you shouldn't be like really, really pushing per se. You should more be letting go, releasing that area and breathing down, relaxing him into existence or the baby into existence, and like opening up. So I wasn't trying to push too much, but more breathing. And we heard a lady next door to us screaming, and I was not a screamer. I was more of like a breather, really quiet. So everybody was like, wow, this is quite impressive. Anyway, did that for a while, and they ended up seeing their head. So we found out that he has blonde hair. Obviously we didn't know the gender at that point, but they were like, your baby has blonde hair. So we were so excited. She tried to move a little bit of my cervix out of the way, and he actually grabbed her hand in my vagina. His hand was right here, and she had her hand in, like trying to, you know, try to look at what's going on. And he literally grabbed her finger. I didn't even know that that could happen. Anyway, he was already flirting with the ladies, even in my vagina. So there's that. So that was pretty funny. And we kept pushing at that point, and nothing was really happening. I felt a lot of pain on my left side, lower abdomen, and I was getting really concerned. So I asked for a little bit more pain medication, and they said, well, you're getting to the point where we can either, if I give you more pain medication, it's going to interfere with the C-section medication or anesthesia that we have to give you. So my heart kind of dropped at that point because I kind of knew what was coming. I had to choose between more medication or a C-section. And all the midwives kind of chatted with me about it and were like, we just really do not see this baby coming out vaginally. He's in not a great position. His hand is right next to his face. You've been laboring for 50 hours, over 50 hours. Your water has been broken for that long as well. It's getting a little bit dangerous for you to continue this way. And I completely understood what they were saying. And I think that's why I just completely surrendered and just accepted the fact that I was not going to be having this baby the way that I wanted to. And that really hurt. It really felt like I was kind of letting him down as well. Sorry. And you know, he was also trying to get out of me, and I felt like I was failing him by not being able to push him out vaginally, and that kind of broke my heart. Yeah, sorry. And I really wanted to do it, and I really wanted to get him out the natural way. But there were so many, which I realized later on, there were so many things stacked against me. Like with, you know, all the things that I had mentioned, him in the wrong position, and my water had been broken for a long time, and him being early, like almost 38 weeks. Like my body, he was not ready. We just weren't ready. And yeah, so in that moment, I was half asleep. I was so tired. They were talking to me, but I was like completely incoherent. And I mean, the word of that experience would be surrender. I just surrendered my mind, my body. I surrendered him over to the doctors. Yeah, because I just felt like, you know, I couldn't do this alone anymore. I was never alone, but I needed help. And for the perfectionist who's watching this, it's okay to have help. It's okay to ask for help and to surrender, and because sometimes that's the way forward. Sometimes that is the best option for you, and you don't need to feel like you're doing it all by yourself and that you have to do everything the right way or the correct way. So it was defeating in the moment, and I felt very sad and disappointed with myself. But looking back, I really felt like I needed to have this lesson given to me by my son to know that I am not in control and I can't control everything, and I have to accept that and be okay with that. Okay, so I had to sign some forms, and I was like half asleep when I was doing this, and my husband was very supportive through the whole thing. He left to go get scrubs on or something. Anyway, I was half asleep. And they wheeled me into the surgery room and put me on the bed, and I basically asked the doctor, hey, I am so tired. Can I just lay here and you not talk to me? And can I just sleep? Because I knew that once my baby was delivered, then like I really wasn't gonna get any sleep because I was gonna have to be feeding him up all night, and it was just gonna, you know, start a cycle. So I was like, can I please just sleep while I lay here, please? So I did. I slept for about 10 minutes while they got me all straight, put some anesthesia in me, and everything. And I had told her, you know, I really want a gentle cesarean. And I was doing a lot of research and looking at my birth plan, and kind of knew that I wanted my baby straight on my skin. I wanted to delay the cord clamping, which I talk about that more in my birth plan video, so make sure to watch that. And I wanted to encapsulate my placenta. So there were a couple things. Obviously, a lot of the birth plan just went out the window, but there were a few things that I could control. So I wanted to still keep that in mind. So yeah, my husband came in and he had a mask on, so I couldn't really see him very well, but he was behind me and we were chatting, and he said that, I don't know if he told me in the moment or if he told me after, but as soon as he walked through the door, they had music playing in the surgery room, and the song Say You Won't Let Go was playing, which is so ironic because it was the song that I sang to him at our wedding. And the fact that it was playing as soon as he walked in the door to me laying on this surgery table about to birth our child is just fate. It's magical. it made me feel like God was really looking out for us. Yeah, I mean, like, what a crazy thing to happen, right? I just felt like, whoa, that was really creepy. And then we found out that another couple that we know, when her child was being born, that song was playing. Isn't that weird? Is that like a birth song? Anyway, I mean, it talks about kids in it and breakfast in bed and stuff like that. But anyway, what's the phrase? Anyway, I'm moving forward. Anyway, so I'm about to be cut into, and I was awake, obviously, and I didn't feel any pain. It just felt like a lot of pressure. I'm really a gory person. Like, I get very woozy when it comes to blood and guts and all of that stuff. So I thought I would not do well, and I did okay, actually. I did decent. I was half asleep again and super incoherent. So my husband was really walking me through what was happening. Anyway, so the baby came out, they pulled the baby out, and Dean looked at me and said, "It's a boy." And I just lit up, my whole demeanor changed, my energy changed, and I looked at him and was like, oh my gosh, I knew it. I knew it was gonna be a boy. And I had said that the whole time. People also guessed because I was sitting really low, but that's another story. But I like knew before I was sitting low that it was a boy. And here he is. He's right beside me. We're looking really cute and talking. I'm sure you hear him. And the doctor asked, "Do you have a name for him? Do you have a name for him?" And I said, "Oliver. It's Oliver." And Dean said it as well. And it was like it was awkward, but I wrote in my journal, it was kind of the first time that we'd really claimed him, as our baby. We validated that he was in existence and he was a boy, and it was a beautiful experience and moment for me and my husband to connect on. I just loved it. I loved that moment. Anyway, I was expecting skin to skin, but unfortunately, things changed. Things went differently, and he was not responding well. So the NICU was prepared to take him. So they came in, swooped in quickly as they do, and he had a little bit of mucus stuck in his airway, so he wasn't really responding or crying or breathing well. So they took him and used I think, from what my husband told me, I couldn't see anything. I kind of just went back to sleep at that point while they stitched me up. They also took out my placenta, which I was going to get encapsulated. Unfortunately, they said it came out in pieces. I think because my amniotic fluid had been gone out of my womb for so long, it kind of dried up and there was a lot of medication inside of me. So it came off it was like really stuck to my uterus, and so it came off in bits, which sounds really gross, but unfortunately they weren't able to save it, which was also disappointing and also not part of my plan again. So I wasn't able to have him right away. They probably cut the cord immediately, I'm assuming, because they needed to kind of resuscitate him. And once they had him in their possession at the NICU, they wheeled him up so he could be there. And I didn't get to see him or have him right away. And in the moment, of course, like, I was like, do whatever you need to do, and I'm gonna rest. And I'm so happy he's born and it's a boy, and I was ecstatic. But, you know, a couple days later, a couple hours later, I got really upset because that's all I wanted. And I felt like I, again, like, wasn't there for my baby when he needed me. And it really hit me hard and made me feel guilty and a little bit sad and depressed about it. So And if that's something that happened in your birth, and I don't know if you felt the same way, but that is how I felt in the moment, after, like, a few hours later. And of course, like, I knew that he was safe, and I'm so glad that we were in a hospital and we were able to get him that care. But again, I felt like I was failing as a mom, like, right away. And that's never an easy feeling when you're sitting on a table with your stomach open up. So it was hard. It was really hard. So after that, they wheeled me to, we were going to go back to our room, grab our stuff, and then head to our postpartum room. But before we did that, they were able to wheel us to the NICU to see him. And I describe in more detail in my book, but I won't go into detail here as much. But he just looked so beautiful lying there. Obviously, I couldn't get up. I was still in the bed next to him. But he just looked so gorgeous. He's talking to me. So gorgeous. And his eyes were closed and they were all moist, and he just looked so small and so helpless, and he had all of these, this machinery hooked up to him. And of course, in the moment, I was just ecstatic to even see him and meet him. But in the back of my mind, I was, of course, judging myself and thinking, I can't believe, he's up here and I can't have him right now. And it made me really sad. But I was so happy that he was here and he was getting the care that he needed. So they were going to monitor him for the day, and that was he was born on Saturday, July 10th at 6 o'clock in the morning. I think 5:58 a.m. And yeah, I'm so glad he's here. Yeah, so that's the majority of my birth story. We were in labor for 56 hours. Wow. I can't even believe that it was that long. And bless you. It felt like a blur and the longest day of my life, all in the same moment. A lot of emotions happened in that time. I felt like surrendering. I felt like a failure. I felt guilty, shame, but at the same time felt a lot of hope and understanding and love and connection. I felt like the most human I have ever felt in my life, and raw and just vulnerable. Birth is an incredible experience, and each one's birth and each child's birth is so different and so unique. And we should never, you're hearing my birth story now, but it's going to be completely different for you. And it probably, if you've already had a birth, it has been completely different for you. And per child, it's been different because you never know what's going to happen. And you have to go in with no expectations. We had preferences, yes, with our birth plan, but we had no expectations when we got to the hospital. When we got to, my husband got a little bit upset at times and didn't understand things. And I had to look at him in my first mothering moment and just say, it is what it is, and we have to accept it. We have to accept it and make the best choice that we can in the moment, and trust ourselves and trust the people around us. No matter what happens in your birth, if you go in with that mindset, it helps you so much. And if you do have a difficult birth like I did, one that's hopefully not as long, but make sure that you have people around you that are supportive and that make you feel like you did everything you could. And I was reminded by my midwives constantly, you did everything you could, you did everything right. There was just so many things that were up against you where you couldn't do anything. It was out of your control. And that made me feel a lot better. I also wrote out my birth story in this journal, which also helped me to heal a lot. So I think that's really, really important to do. after your birth, no matter what happens, to release it, let it go. Just a couple things to note about my birth is that he was up in the NICU for a few days, and I actually did not get to hold him until Sunday evening, which was incredibly hard. And I was pumping colostrum for him and sending it up and pumping about every 2 or 3 hours in our room, also recovering from a C-section. It was really hard. And if you've ever had that happen to you in your birth, you know that it was really hard not to hold him. I was very emotional and just trying to heal myself as well, and not getting much sleep, and knowing that he was only a floor away from me and I couldn't be with him was really, really hard. But he was doing great. He was recovering very quickly and healing very well. And when we would see him each time, he'd be so much better. They were feeding him through an IV in his belly button, and also feeding him my colostrum and some formula as well. We didn't get him until Monday into our room, which felt so amazing. It felt like an angel was coming into the room. He was just radiating with so much light. And we took a lot of pictures. We fed him for the first time, which felt such an amazing experience. Yeah, it was all a blur now, but it just felt so beautiful to have him in my arms and know that he is mine and I don't have to give him back. Yeah, and he's still mine. And he's still mine. Oh man, I'm getting emotional about so many things. Yeah, and the last thing I want to say is we were released from the hospital on Tuesday, and that was our wedding anniversary. Coincidence? I think not. No. So that was also really cool. We were supposed to have our baby shower on Sunday, and we were still in the hospital. We were supposed to have a photo shoot on Monday, a maternity one, and we were still in the hospital. And then for our anniversary, we were supposed to have a dinner. We had a reservation booked, and you know the story, none of that happened. So we had the best of intentions and none of that happened. But that is life, that is birth, and it is what it is. So I have released this into the universe, and I hope you got a lot out of this birth story, connection, emotions, empathy, entertainment maybe. But I mostly just wanted to release it to the world to hopefully connect with others and to give some perspective, as to how my birth went. It's not going to be the same for you. It is not going to be the same story for you, and that's okay. Whatever happens in your birth is unique and beautiful, and it will be perfect the way that it happens. And just going in again and releasing those expectations is the best thing that could happen. And it's okay to still feel sadness and to still feel upset about things, because that is just being human. But not letting it affect you and your self-worth and how you feel about yourself is important. I know that I did the best that I could with the resources that I had, and I had so much support surrounding me, and that's all that matters. So if you like this video, please press like and make sure to subscribe, because I come out with videos all about self-love and perfectionism, which is a beautiful example of this right here, right now in my birth, and also health coaching videos. I am a certified integrative nutrition health coach, and obviously mom life and lifestyle stuff. So if you did like this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, hit that little bell. That way you know when I'm coming out with new videos, which is pretty inconsistent right now with a newborn, but it is what it is again. So thank you for watching, and if you haven't watched my birth plan, make sure to go and watch that video, because it is completely different from what we wanted, and it's all good. It's all good. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.